So I know there's some new people here. What I wanted to talk about, so first of all, why are we standing, okay? There's a reason why we stand. No, I remember coming into this job in my first day, I'm like, where's the chairs? You know, where can I sit? And there's a reason. So I don't know the specific stats. You guys don't quote me, okay? But there is a study, like a scientific thing, and they showed that scientific thing. Yes, Dawson, it's a scientific situation, and it said when if you're sitting down, you are taking notes. After 30 days, you forgot like 90% of the information you forgot. I mean, test it out. Somebody raise your hand and tell me something you took notes on 30 days ago.
What he talked to me.
Right? Now, and by the way, it also, the percentage, you forget more stuff when you, like, if you type, it's easier to forget than if you handwrite. That's why there's value still in the notebook. Like a lot of you guys use notebooks. If you stand and actively take notes, you only forget, which is still a lot, about 50%. And this business, okay, so I want you guys to give you some perspective here, okay? If you started at, anybody say out loud a regular job, maybe your last job. What's a Amazon bartending? Okay, so Amazon, Chase Bank, serving, teacher. Yeah, like if you work at a bank. Teacher, what else? Who's brand new from this week that you just started? Solar, that's not a regular job, sir. Solar is a career. No, I mean, I know some solar professionals that like, and you tell me if it's wrong, like do people sometimes they work like 10 days out of the month and they just make 2 or 3 or 4 good sales and they can live on that?
We didn't, but yes,
You did. I guess solar could be a regular job. What did you do before this, Charlie?
Finance.
Finance. Where?
Exeter.
Where?
Exeter. It's kind of a smaller company.
Yeah, we'll pretend that we know it. It sounds good. So, in any of these jobs, if you started day one, how many years would it take you to do the CEO's job?
like 6.
So, for example, at the Amazon warehouse, you're never gonna, never. The answer is never. You're never doing the CEO's job at Amazon, right? What about if you worked at a bank? Like, how long until you get to general manager, general banker? So 15, 20 years. Now, is it guaranteed, Mulu? No. Ain't no guarantees, by the way. Okay, serving. You can start at a restaurant, work your way up. How long would it take to get to GM? 3, 4?
5 years.
Okay, somebody said 3, somebody said 5. So let's say 3 to 5 years. Depends on if it's Chipotle or if it's like Logan's Steakhouse, right? Chili's. Teacher, if you were a teacher, how long would it take you to get to CEO teacher? Never? And what about in finance? Like at the company you worked at, which is a small business.
Yeah.
How old was the owner, by the way? Did you see him every day or see her?
No, I never saw him at all, actually. So.
Okay. You never saw him, so we assume it was a dude?
Yeah.
And you never saw him, why not? Like, I guess he wouldn't work there? Or is?
Well, he never worked in the office. He always worked from home.
Got it. And if you had to say, like, how old were the coworkers? How long did they work there for?
I mean, I'd say the CEO was probably like 50s, 60s, around that area.
And so what about the rest of the coworkers?
Probably around mid-20s.
So it looks like it would take between 10 and 60 years to... We don't know, right? But let's say at least 10 to 20. Okay, would you guys agree this is all normal?
Yeah.
Dude, in our business, our business is not normal. This is not a normal job, which is why you will fail if you treat this like a normal job. The reason this matters and that you actually stand and actually write notes is because you will retain more information. Look that up, okay? It might not be 50, might be 49 or 52, but you will remember more things. We need that. We need to take any advantage of anything we can because you will be doing the CEO, you will be doing the owner's job. So if you were in orientation yesterday, you will be running that orientation anywhere between 20 to maybe 30 weeks from today, like before Christmas. Like you will be running the company. I think that's insane. So anything we can do to retain more stuff, we need that. We need all the little tricks. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's why you're standing, and I won't be long because I have a call at 12. So here I wanted to talk about something. So a lot of times we use this time of the day to talk about the opportunity, what the business is doing, how much we're growing. And look, our business is way bigger than this one office, okay? As of yesterday, we have 899, literally as of yesterday, 899 locations like this. And when there's a group of people like this, and there's an orientation class, and there is a training, and a circle of, not everybody's saying Weiss and these weird things you guys are saying, but there's 899 offices just like this across the United States that are operating as of right now. Not all of them are selling AT&T or Frontier or Petco. It doesn't matter, but we all have in common the one thing is the clients and the business model. This business is, but I'll tell you, for example, 3 years ago, instead of 899 locations, there was about 250, just so you know, which means that about 500 of you have started and finished the training since then. Does that make sense? Yeah. Just you have and so one thing I've noticed, and I was talking to somebody back there, what is it that helps people move across the country? And by the way, if you have any ideas of like, hey, I want to go over the clients or whatever, we can kind of tune these meetings into like what somebody brand new might want to listen to. So please voice up. Okay, this is a leadership program. We don't want you to treat this like you're just some employee. So if you're like, hey, Richard, I would like to, or Julian, I would like to listen to, a meeting about so-and-so. What I want to talk about is really the why is it that people are successful and what helps people finish this training, okay? And just like in any training, or just like in any relationship, or just like in any sport, the person that makes it, they all kind of share similar characteristics. Would you agree? Yeah. Like, who went to college here? And keep your hand up if you finished it. Oh, okay, only a few hands went down. And so did you notice that not everyone finished college? When you were, for you guys that finished, did you notice that? And what did those people have in common, the people that did finish? Speak up if you went to college and finished. What did you have in common with the guys that also finished the 4 years? Discipline, perseverance, patience. They showed up. Huh? They didn't quit, okay? Did you guys see people leaving college for better or worse reasons that didn't finish? What did you see they had in common? Excuses, attitude. They a little lazy. What's that? People had babies. Okay, yeah. Work too much. You said what?
Party too much.
Party too much. Lack of vision. And it's hard to ask a 21-year-old to have some sort of vision, right? But you guys see how there's common things. So in this business, this is the same. Like we figured out what it looks like for a brand new person. What do they kind of look like when they do finish in this training? Because not everyone does. Just like in college, you wouldn't expect everyone to finish college. There's going to be about 90,000 people about to finish medical school here in September, but only 10% of those will actually become doctors. Think about that. Now, do you think those other, what is 10% of 90,000? Do you think the other 81,000 people are getting reimbursed? No. They're not, And do you hear any complaints about that? Or do you hear college being a scam? Yes. You do hear it now more often, actually, right? Yeah. But our parents, isn't it funny that like our elders, our parents, uncles, people above, they don't really talk about college being a scam, do they? No. They talk about it like it's like the only way you have to actually become successful. Now you're watching some like 23-year-old on YouTube become a billionaire out of, Mr. Beast, like just doing videos and selling chocolate bars, and you're like, what degree is that, right? It kind of like we don't understand. So we all see how the world's changing. Would you agree? Yeah. And so, but there's things you can learn from everything. And even though you know that you're going to college, and again, 81,000 people out of 90,000 will pay for a medical school degree and not use it because they're either not good enough. And by the way, would you agree? It's like most of them, they're not good enough, so they don't want to do the work of being a doctor. Should we lower the bar of being a doctor so that more people get in? No. Why not? Don't you want like a rookie doing like your knee surgery? No. Why not?
You don't want to mess with experts.
Right. So then this is for the leaders maybe only, but like this is my reminder to you is like when you complain because you had a bad day, like do you want us to make it easier on you and send you just to West Virginia every week so that you can do a lot of sales? Or do you want us to do you want to sometimes, even though it doesn't feel right, but do we want to go through the tough things too, right? So if you, raise your hand if you've been struggling, if like you want to be consistent and you want to learn how to be consistent. Okay, so especially if you're in the field and you're like, well, I'm not consistent at sales. And I always run into this argument with newer people. Not an argument, but this reasoning of people like, Richard, I don't know if I can do this because I'm not good enough at sales. And that is a valid thing to say. Oh, I've never done sales. I'm like, okay, that's okay. But let's think about that, okay? So then my answer to you would be, Uche, how many hours of training in sales have you had in your life?
Altogether, probably, let's say 40 hours.
40 hours in your whole life of sales training, okay? Would it be reasonable for him to be a sales professional? No. So if he said, I'm not good enough at sales, would that be true? Yeah, it would. But there's nothing wrong with that, you know? Like you might go home and your mom's like, you're just not made for this. You're not good enough at sales. And sometimes we get offended because it's like, well, it's my mom saying I'm not good enough at sales. But the point is that she's right. And like you haven't trained enough for it. Now, if Uche would have had 40 hours a week for the last 10 years at sales, would he be good?
Yes.
So what I don't want is anyone in here thinking, well, I'm not good enough. It's like, okay, well, why should you? Like if you haven't if there hasn't been any training on it, it's like you coming up here and saying, well, Richard, like I'm not good at speaking Japanese. It's like, well, have you ever attended Japanese classes or lessons? No. Have you been to Japan? No. Then why would you be good at it? There is no sense in being good at it. So I want to help. That's the first thing we got to do before I kind of explain this. It's you got to remove this expectation of being good at things you've never trained on. You aren't good, and that is okay. It's a part of it is becoming good involves some sucking. Agree? Like we have to kind of be bad before we're good, right? Anybody remember? And more for ladies, because I know ladies, there's very less ladies that love driving cars, right? Like, you remember your first time getting on the road? How was it?
Almost crashed. I went to the other.
Didn't you like feel like you're gonna get run over by some 18-wheeler? And wasn't it scarier than now? I think it's funny, the driving example, because it is true. Like even for dudes, like the first time you ever drove a car into the highway, do you remember that? Now you think about how do you got to work today? You were probably like changing the music while you're on FaceTime, smoking a cigarette with like with your foot out the window. And come on, let's be honest. Does anybody make it to work nowadays and you're like, you get in the car driving is like this mindless activity, and all of a sudden you're like, dude, the exit. Boom. And you're like, you're at work, you're like, I almost miss it. Does anybody get that? Like the whole time you got there's 20 minutes of driving at 80 miles an hour and you did it without even thinking. Right? Like you answer more texts sometimes driving that like, you know, when you're actually not driving. Anyway, so again, I want to remind you, you should not be good at things you haven't spent hours and hours and hours of training. Agree? So if you are starting at this or at anything, you are going to experience a level of not being consistent. Agree? Yeah. That isn't a reason that doesn't mean you're not good. It means you're not good yet. And it also is not a reason that you won't be good. Okay? So one thing I found, because I struggled a lot in the field, like I could not learn how to sell consistently. I would have a good day when I was in a great mood and in a good area. And when I thought I was in a bad area, I would say stupid stuff to my manager. I would say like, hey, we should not go to this area again because this is a bad territory. Like I would say stuff like, hey, this is a Spanish territory. And by the way, my mentor, she was from Vietnam. She could barely speak English, not to mention Spanish. And she's like, interesting. It's a Spanish area in Fort Worth. No one spoke English. I'm like, yeah, no one did. And we know what was funny is that, again, I was making excuses because I really believed it. I believed the truth that people were only Spanish. But the reality is that there was somebody across the street in the same office that was crushing that area and doing great. I was that person. I was not making sales all the time. I was going up and down with my results, and that was making me upset. Does anybody relate to that, either in this or in something else? Like you're not consistent enough yet. And so if you're like, how do I do it? How do I get consistent? Instead of focusing so much on the sales and being consistent, because a lot of the sales is hours, spend more hours. Try to go out on a Sunday. Ask a coffee to the person that did the best last week and see if you can meet them 20 minutes early in here and say, hey, Mo, you've been doing great. Can we practice? Can you give me some coaching? Can I take you out on a Sunday and practice? If you really have the ambition, that's what you do. But the second thing you do is instead of just being so obsessed about your results today, try your hardest today. You should, as any winner. Okay? here's what you do. So tell me things in life that you are going to do no matter what your job is. What are some of the main areas in life that we kind of look at? So for example, your sleep. That makes sense. Okay. What else? Huh?
Music.
Talking.
Socializing.
Music. You could change the music. But like, okay, like regular habits that you have.
Driving. Brush your teeth.
Like eating. Yeah.
Waking up,
Eating. The time so sleeping and waking up.
Cooking.
prayer.
Breathing.
Yeah. You can throw in spiritual prayer.
Workout. Reading.
Okay. Reading.
Talking to family.
Exercise, family time. Okay, and look, there's more. Depends on you, right? Maybe it's a hobby that you really like doing, like a sport that you really you gotta get your like baseball in on Sundays, whatever. What'd you say? Basketball, right? So, okay, so I want you guys, if you are struggling with consistent, now let's put your job here. So this, or switch job / sales / the business / anything new that you do want to accomplish good results. It could be a new relationship, you're dating somebody new, okay? So now I want you to look at all the other areas in your life that matter to you. So maybe for you it's not prayer, but you switch it for something else. That makes sense? Like you can edit this note. And I want you to look at how consistent are you in terms of eating. So for example, everybody here eats. So eating around the same times, eating similar foods. You can eat whatever, but also, again, like trying to eat around the same time. Anybody notice that you eat like a crazy big meal right before bed, it affects you, right? Or you eat a really massive meal like in the morning, it kind of gets you lethargic. You know, you try to eat like 4 McDonald's meals right before the field in the summer, it will affect you. Like if you want to do the best in the field, or if you were an athlete, you're going to run a race or a marathon, you wouldn't eat McDonald's right before, agree? So, okay, so think about like you guys know when you go to the doctor, like that line of like your heart rate? I want you to think about that line and think about how consistent are you at eating? Do you eat around the same foods, similar things during the rest of the day? You probably do. You probably eat the same 10 meals all the time. We all do. So now, if you're a person, you're spiritual, you believe in God, so do your prayer time, anybody here kind of like that? I'm like that. It's okay. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. So hey, how often do you pray? How often do you talk to God? How often do you do it? Do you do it every day? Blah, blah, blah. Are you consistent? Okay, you probably are. Reading. If you read every day, I read every day. I'm like every day I read 10 minutes. Every day. I don't read for an hour. I'd like to, but I don't prioritize that so much. I do read every day for 10 minutes. That's my thing. Maybe for you, you just read every week or every other day or on the weekends. It doesn't have to be a daily thing. Consistency could just be weekly, monthly. But I want you to analyze, how consistent are you? Maybe you just have some spikes, but are you consistent? Does that make sense? Is it making sense, this?
Yes.
Okay. Same with exercise. Maybe you do 3 days a week. The next week you don't. The next week you do 5. Maybe you get into the gym club, you get out, but do you regularly exercise? Maybe you go through a time that you don't, but then you do. Eventually, okay, how consistent are you? And I want you to draw your own line here. Same with your family time. Do you spend a lot? Do you not? You go through seasons. Maybe during Christmas you spend more and you don't really spend a lot. And now you get to your job and if you're like me, you start and you're like this. Means you've had good days, bad days, good days, bad days. And you are frustrated because you're a winner. You're in here, you're like, dang it, I want to do better, blah, blah, blah. Jordan sucks or whatever. And like, well, he's white and that's why he's getting more results. Or she's a girl and that's why she's getting more results. And by the way, whatever you believe in is probably true for you, but it isn't the reality, okay? And so most people, what they do is if they get very, very frustrated, they're not a winner, they quit. Now, I'm not saying if you leave this job or you quit, you're a loser. I'm not saying that. But a loser would quit when things get tough in any job. They probably stopped exercising when they got sore. And they probably stopped reading when they didn't like a book. Or they probably, stopped praying when something bad happened. They blame God. Why would God make me go through this? Does that make sense? A loser has the same characteristics. You guys talked about people that don't finish college. They all had the same characteristics. They don't show up. They party too much. They do have the same characteristics. So if you're a winner, which I believe most of you are a winner in here, your job is inconsistent. It's normal. You don't have enough hours on it. You think about how long you've been eating for. About every day, right? So you kind of got good at it, right? You don't complain like, man, I can't eat, right? So what I would recommend, if you're here, instead of focusing so much on like putting pressure on it, putting so much pressure on the job, Sure, you should go to DOS. You should go to the person that's doing good and again, ask him for a coffee. Network, okay? Spend 30 minutes extra unpaid time and get better at it. That's what you would do in any circumstance. If you want to go learn Japanese, you would talk to Japanese people, yes? You would try to figure out a trip to Japan, or if not, download an app that speaks to you. You would put your phone in Japanese mode, yes or no?
Yes.
So instead of focusing on selling so much, which by the way, you ever notice when you really, really try to sell, customers they just say no to you before you even say anything? Anybody notice that? That you could have $1,000 of free cash for somebody at their house, but they would say no thank you to you right away?
Yeah.
Does anybody get that? I used to get that all the time. Like, I'm like, hey, how you doing? They're like, no thank you. And I'm like, no thank you to what? I haven't sold you anything yet. Anybody go through that? By the way, this is a quick trick. When you have that, it doesn't matter what you say. It's your demeanor. People are rejecting like the attitude. You got to change that. What I would tell you is if you're here, you're inconsistent, this is the one thing you got to do. Keep showing up, keep asking for coffee, and keep putting in the repetition and the hours. But I want you to go through all these other areas. And again, these could be different for each person. Go through all these other areas of life and see how consistent are you. You're like, yeah, I'm actually not really consistent at the gym. I'm not really consistent at eating better foods. Not that you can't eat some fast food here and there. And so what I would tell you is because these are easier, make these consistent. I'm not saying forget the job. I'm saying if you're inconsistent in something, go to your areas in life that matter to you and make it consistent. And you got to give this enough time. You cannot cheat time. You will have to insert 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days. But what I realized is when I was so bad at here, I was like, you know what? Let me just make all the other areas in life consistent because those are easier. I can iron my clothes at the same time. I can go to bed at similar times. I can watch similar things on TV or similar podcasts. I can read similar books. I can try to get better at my food. I can go to the gym a little bit faster, okay? And then the job will eventually line up. And I want you to do an exercise mentally with me. You know, if all your areas of life are consistent, like this, they're all consistent, and then you insert a new one that's inconsistent, what do you think is going to happen? Eventually it's going to, would that not make sense? You're inserting a new thing into a consistent line, into a consistent lifestyle. You insert an inconsistent thing. It'll be rocky, right? But then eventually what's going to happen is going to get into the frequency with the rest. Does that make sense? And that is the reason why you might not be being consistent or you might not have the conviction or belief that you can do well is because you're looking at your exercise and you're not doing well there either. You're looking at other things of your life that are easier and you're not doing well. You're lacking the consistency here, which makes you think, yeah, I'm not so good at exercising. And you say these things to you, but then you're looking at your job. And of course, you're not going to be consistent at it because you're not consistent at the rest of the stuff. So you don't believe you can be good at your job because you don't even believe you can read at the same time every week. Or you don't believe that you can do healthier meals. But the reality is those are easier. And the job is something new. It's going to start rocky. So the people that are in our business that make it through the training, they're people that have more than others organized lives outside of work. That's why we get kind of personal with you sometimes. And we want to see what you do with your off time. And I'm interested in seeing, how you treat the server when you sit down for a coffee. I'm interested in seeing how you talk about your family because it's, again, it reveals your character when I see all the other consistent areas in your life that you had already before this job. Does that make sense? Now we're going to insert the job. It's going to be rocky. We're going to be there to support you. We have base pays. We have help. We have a regional meeting we're going to take you. You have all these things to help you. But if your life is a mess, your job, is it going to randomly be perfect? No. If your life at home is crazy, you're getting kicked out of your house and your wife hates you, are you going to come to work and be like the perfect example?
No.
You could, but would that not be super hard?
Yes.
So focus on the areas of your life that you're not consistent. Make a commitment over there, and eventually your job will flatline to that consistency. I promise you, sales is scary. You're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to get all these things. But there's also going to be a moment in which you all of a sudden are good at it. We are not selling solar panels or high-ticket items, which you have to be a sales professional. We are selling internet. Can you mention one person that does not have internet? No. Can you imagine one person in Texas that does not deal with bugs in their house? No. People that don't care about it, people that rent. But does everybody have internet?
Yes.
What we sell, can anybody buy it from us?
Yes.
We're not trying to be sales professionals. You got to learn how to get 1 or 2 yeses a day so we can advance you in the training and make you a manager. It's all we're interested in. We have no interest in keeping you selling for too long. That is not this business. Could you sell a lot and make $3,000 a week for a minute? Sure. Enjoy it. But that's not the goal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm guessing you can use that?
Yes.
All right, we're going to go on a break. So it's 12:06. We're going to come back from break at 12:35. 1, 2, 3.
Break.